Yeah, I think we got this. Okay. That looks too. All right, we are live. We've got a few more minutes. People filter in. And we're going to be talking about ditching the bowl and how to use mealtime to create constructive behaviors and reduce anxiety and destructive behaviors and provide enrichment for our dogs. Yay. Let's see if we can get this to look a little bit less like I'm haunted. I'm very, very tired today, guys. It's been a long week. We've got, yeah, all right. Here we go. Oh, let's plug that in. Oh, don't mind my cats being weird. Okay, so let's see. These things are always very nerve-wracking to do. So, okay, well, according to my watch, we've still got like 6 minutes. I always like to log in early, though, to make sure that, according to my cell phone, we've got 2. I always like to log in early just to make sure that everything is working and everybody can hear me. Hopefully you guys can hear me. You feel free to post questions if you have any while we're talking. I will try to answer them as we go. If not, I will get to them at the end. And wow. Okay, so ditch the bowl. Just as some quick announcements to begin with, new class sessions are starting February 26th. We're in the middle of a current session, or 22nd, excuse me, it's a Saturday, group classes. They will be offering puppy basics and basic obedience. Coming up in the spring, we're going to start our on the trail training classes, which will be probably once the weather gets a little bit more reliable and probably held either in the evening during the week or in like on Saturday afternoons or something like that. So if you have a question about that, or if you have a suggestion on the time, please let me know. There will be a series of 4 classes that takes place on the trail, and we'll be focusing on specific trail skills for your dogs, things like recall, leave it, that kind of stuff. Each class will probably be very, very single skill specific, just so that we can really hone those in. I'm also going to probably start doing reactive dog classes, but I'm going to be doing them online through live stream, mostly because I want to get some information out there before we start actively working with reactive dogs, things like that. I do offer online training for people who are remote or watching from a distance, etc. Okay, so it's probably close enough to 7 o'clock. So yeah, quick announcements. Next class session begins February 22nd. Puppy basics and basic obedience, plus in the spring. Also, I have done in the past a trail etiquette demo day. Just at a local park. I got invited a couple of businesses. I invited Parks and Rec and Ridge to Rivers and all those, and BLM and all that, to provide some information on dogs on the trails out there. I didn't do it last year due to some personal tragedy that happened in my family right before, and I just didn't have time to get it together. But I'm thinking again of doing it this year, so let me know if you guys are interested. It was a really big success the first year we did it. Basically, it's just going over the basics of the rules for the trails and the foothills around the Boise area. It's a really good way for you to get introduced to the idea of taking your dog on the trail, or to get familiar with basic stuff. I usually had some suggestions for trails, etc. All right, so to begin with, this live stream is about ditch the bowl. It is all about using feeding times constructively rather than just simply dropping our kibble in a bowl and walking away, using different toys and devices to create enrichment for our dogs that provides a way to reduce anxiety, curb destructive behaviors, provide mental stimulation, reduce overexcitement and all that stuff. It can also be used to help reduce anxiety about separation anxiety, but also dogs that get really anxious when we're walking out the door. It can really change the way they perceive that. So traditionally, we just drop our kibble in a bowl and we give it to the dog and we walk away. More and more, as behavior is becoming better understood in canines, we are starting to realize that there's a better way for us to provide things for them, especially on busy days. I love feeding out of treat balls, Kongs, all kinds of puzzle toys and things like that, especially on days when I'm going to be working all day. I'm going to be gone. I'm going to, maybe be able to make it back to the house in the middle of the day to let everybody out to go potty, that kind of stuff. Feeding this way provides them a little bit of something to take the edge off, especially with young, energetic dogs. Particularly, it also helps with dogs that like to swallow their food. We all have that dog in our life, or we know that dog that basically you set the food in front of it and they inhale it and it's gone. Sometimes this can cause problems with digestion. Sometimes it causes choking hazards. Sometimes it causes vomit 10 minutes later all over your carpet and you have all this undigested kibble, etc. So if you have a dog that likes to just hoover through their food and lightning fast, this is an excellent way to slow that feeding down, encourage the dog to actually eat their food and chew their food, and reduces the likelihood that they're A, going to choke, or B, going to puke it back up in 5 minutes. So a little bit about me. My name's Pine Irwin. Anybody who's been hanging out for a while has seen a couple of these here and there. I'm a certified dog trainer. I'm based out of Idaho, Boise, Meridian area, but I kind of travel all over. I do online coaching. I am a trail dog expert. That is kind of my niche. I'm also a behavior specialist. I deal a lot with problem behaviors like reactivity and aggression masking behaviors. I decided to do a live stream about this because I think it's something important to talk to people about, to give people ideas about how to approach interaction and dealing with their dog in a way that is different, or at least more conducive to a modern setting. So what kind of alternatives do we have to our traditional bowl of kibble? We have slow feeders, which we've all kind of seen those. Those are the bowls with the funky looking bowls with like the swirls in them, and they've got all the stuff here. I've got one. Excuse me, I'm trying to get it all out here. I've got tons of them. This one is made by Outward Hound. You can see it. They all look like this. They come in various sizes. This is obviously meant for a really, really large dog. I have large dogs, so most of my stuff is big. Most of it comes in smaller, in variety of sizes and variety of shapes. I believe this one is made by Outward Hound. Available at Damsau's, I think H3, Petco. I think everybody carries at least something similar to this. Half the time you can find these at like TJ Maxx and stuff, which if you guys don't know that, TJ Maxx is like a gold mine of awesome dog stuff. So a slow feeder works by spreading the kibble through, and I recommend usually applying some water to it, warm water to help bring out the smells, but also slow the dog down and encourage. Water helps and aids in digestion. It also slows food down. They were originally designed as a means of slowing dogs down who have a tendency to just slurp their food, right? They can be used in all kinds of ways. One of the best ideas I've ever seen, I'm stealing it from my little brother, is he actually uses these and he does it up with some water, a little bit of canned food and some other stuff. And then he sticks it in his freezer and he saves it. And it takes his dog, his German Shepherd, a good half an hour, 45 minutes to get through it once it's been frozen. So it's a really good way to kind of encourage like self-soothing behaviors, but also to provide his dog with something interesting to do for 45 minutes when he walks out the door. He's a dog trainer now in Wisconsin, but previously he was a paramedic and would work 36-hour shifts. So he would do these up ahead of time so that the guy who was helping him out with his dog while he was gone would have something to give Ash. So that is one thing to do. Another one is the traditional, of course, all powerful Kong. We all have one of these, or in my case, like a dozen of them in various sizes. These are one of the greatest canine inventions of the modern era. It's just this little rubber thing. Of course, most people know that it's kind of based on the different colored rubbers are based on hardness. Red is kind of standard. Blue is slightly harder. Black is the hardest you can get. They've got light blue and light pink for puppies that are really soft. And they come in various sizes. In terms of sizing these, if your dog can fit it in his mouth, it is too small. Go a size up. I am really adamant about that because these can be a choking hazard if it's too small for your dog. I have some that are smaller for like younger dogs or puppies, or for dogs that are staying here for training or for boarding, that if they're smaller, I have smaller ones, and I'm very careful to make sure my big dogs don't get a hold of them because it's a great way for them to choke. So with a Kong, of course, we all know you can stuff it full of cookies. Kong itself sells all kinds of things you can stuff in there and add to it. I personally like to kind of stick a cookie at the bottom there so that it's not, sorry, I'm trying to figure out how my camera works there, so that it's kind of a plugged up hole. And then I put the kibble in there. I add a little slurry of like a little canned food and some water, or some canned food and some plain non-fat yogurt, stick it in there, stuff it in my freezer upside down just like this, and freeze it overnight. Egg cartons, empty egg cartons, a great way to keep those balanced. I keep these in the freezer. I keep them locked and loaded. It's a great way to offer a meal. It's a great thing to give in the summer for cooling a dog down. Once they're frozen, it'll take my dogs 20 minutes to get through one. And by the time they're done, they need a nap because it's a lot of work. Another great thing to do with them, if you don't want to feed out of them, is to use them for enrichment or to use them for self-soothing and, things like that. Is smear a little peanut butter on the inside and freeze it. Just make sure the peanut butter you use is not with the xylitol, the artificial sugars of any kind. Stevia, xylitol, Splenda, Sweet and Low, all that stuff is toxic to dogs. It destroys their liver. So get the real stuff, get the cheap stuff. I usually buy like Adams or something that is, just peanuts and salt and oil. Smear a little in there, freeze it, and it's a great treat in the summer too. I love Kongs. I love them. I have so many of them in all different sizes. I'm on that same note. Kong also makes a treat dispenser, and it's called a wobbler. And you'll excuse that it's dirty. It was used this morning. It is basically a Kong, except it's got a hard bottom and it's heavy. So when the dogs knock it around, it just kind of pops back up and spits the kibble out of here. This thing is awesome. It's a little bit loud. So if you live in an apartment, it might not be the best choice if you're on the second floor or something. But here at my house, the dogs just bat this thing around the kitchen and living room and just whack the heck out of it. This one has got to be about 6 or 7 years old by now, and it's still in pretty good shape, even up against my Shepherd, who is pretty much destroyer of the world. They come in different sizes. They come in a smaller size and then this size. I have the large one, obviously, because I have large dogs and I can fit a whole meal in here. And it'll take a good 20 minutes for them to get all the kibble out, depending on how enthusiastic they are. So it's a great toy. It's made by Kong, Petco, PetSmart. Everybody carries Kong these days. Oops, somebody's yelling. Somebody came home, I think. All right. So we also have what we call treat puzzles, and these come in every shape and size. Outward Hound makes like 6 of them. Several other companies make them. There's something like this, really simple, really straightforward. It's got like a little removable piece and you fill it with little kibbles. One piece is missing. It died a sad, terrible death. I stepped on it and broke it. This one is kind of a puppy one, so it's a little bit simpler. Once they figure it out, Branch has mastered it, my youngest dog, and so it's pretty cool. But I like it because you can just stuff things in there. You can do treats in there. This is a great game for dogs to play, even if you're not feeding out of it. It's a really good and fun enrichment for dogs to kind of find where the kibbles are, etc. There are a dozen different styles of these. And like I said, Outward Hound itself makes like 6 different versions, some of them where there's moving parts, and they vary in difficulty. So they're awesome. I love having them around. Just don't break them like I did. And then following, so there's different styles of that. And then the most popular are the treat dispensing toys. So we have this one from Pet Safe. This one has been modified to be really, really easy. It's called the Purple Egg. They make all different ones. There's purple, there's like a mushroom, there's a bottle with a rope in it. They're different difficulty levels. These ones come with like these little tines in here, and there's more of them in the newer and in like a brand new one. And you can make it a little bit easier for dogs who are struggling. This one was kind of my first one that I was teaching some of my dogs how to eat out of. This one's got to be 7 years old now. So they hold up pretty well, even against my Shepherd. And you just fill it like that, unscrew it, screw it back together, drop it in front of the dog, and let him go to town. My Shepherd in particular loves this thing because it's loud, it's obnoxious, and she can smack it around with her feet for like 10, 15 minutes. And like I said, this one's set to be really, really easy. So oftentimes when I'm introducing a new dog to puzzle toys and treat balls and things like that, I'll use something like this that's kind of simple for them to figure out so that they get the idea. One of the first treat dispensing toys, and I have one somewhere, is called the Pet Cube, and it can be actually really, really difficult for dogs to understand because it doesn't move easily, it doesn't drop the kibble easily. Great for a dog that's really familiar with these kind of things. Good for a dog that's got a lot of food drive and is really determined. Not so great for a dog who does less food drive or isn't familiar and tires out easily and doesn't want to push through. It becomes not fun for them to do because they're not winning. So difficult toys kind of save for later. I kind of vary which ones I give to who. based on how they're feeling or what they've been doing. If I need to tire them out a little bit more, I give them a little bit harder one and that kind of stuff. Like Branch isn't quite ready for something that's really, really complicated. He gets, he's still kind of in that phase of his life where he's sort of like sometimes easily too distracted from his meals. So other treat dispensing toys they have, this one's made from Petco. I forget, it's their new house brand. I got it. It's got a little thing in there and you stuff the kibble in here. It's not a great one to feed out of unless your dog doesn't eat a whole lot because he can't really fit much in there, but it is a really nice one for treats. It's a really nice one. Sometimes I'll use it with a few kibbles in there because it's actually quite complicated toy. It takes a lot of effort to get it out. They just have to knock it around, but they have to be pretty consistent to get it results. Like I said, it doesn't hold a lot, so it's better for the smaller dogs or just as treats rather than actually feeding a full meal. Or you can do it, you know, part of a meal in one and part of a meal in another. I do that a lot if I've got a dog that eats large quantities. Another one is, this one's made by Roughwear. We all know how I feel about Roughwear. I pretty much have like everything. I love Roughwear. Their company is great. They do really, really good work. Their customer service is amazing. They just do awesome stuff. Well, this is one they have in this color, and I think they have it in their blue. You just kind of fill it with the kibble here. It's got 2 different holes, 2 different sizes. Even really large kibble will come out of this. I feed Purina Pro Prime Saver, and I mean, the kibbles are giant. They look like the size of like candies. So like butterscotch candies or whatever, and then they pop out of this just fine. This thing is awesome. It's really tough. It's really durable. To clean it, I just stick it in the top rack of the dishwasher and run it through and then just let it dry. So this is an awesome one. This one is available at Northwest Pets carries it for sure. The last time I was there. Sometimes you can find them. Sportsman's carries some Roughwear stuff. A couple other companies in town carry Roughwear. D&B is starting to carry Roughwear, but they are carrying mostly their collars, leashes, and harnesses, and I haven't seen much in the way of their toys. But you can order it off their website, and it's really easy to get it. It gets here pretty quick. I forget who makes this one, but I have like 3 of them. This one's really nice. It's not, again, it's something if you've got a dog who eats a smaller amount, or if you want to use it in conjunction with other ones. I wouldn't really feed a whole meal in this just because you can't fit that much, but it's another one that's adjustable. So you can adjust how difficult it is. You put it really close together like that, and it's really hard to get them out. If you open it up a little bit more, it's a little bit easier. This is a really great one for treats. It's a great one for, you know, terrier type dogs who've got a lot of tenacity and really don't mind working hard for something. I keep a couple of these. I have them in various sizes, and I use them primarily to dispense treats when I need a quiet time, because it's a lot quieter than some of these other ones. And then the other ones I've got, I recently picked up at PetSmart. These were from Pet. They're made by Top Paw. They were on sale, like crazy on sale, and they just went through the dishwasher, so they're still a little gross. There's 2 different kinds. There's like a cube one. It's got a hole in the top, and then there's this one that's got a hole right there. These are pretty much awesome. They're really tough. They're really durable. They're super easy to, I mean, they take a minute to fill because you can only, you know, put so much kibble in there at a time. They hold about a cup of kibble each. So for dogs who are eating large quantities, again, it's perfectly easy to just give them 2 of them at a time. And I actually feed my female lab really likes those ones a lot. So oftentimes I feed Kaylee both of those. I just split her kibble between the 2 of them and she can knock them around in her big kennel. And then we've got some other ones in here. We've got like this one who I forget made this one. It squeaks and it does dispense treats. It is very, very small. It only fills in these ones, these here, right here. This is a treat dispensing toy. It's not really meant for feeding unless you've got something that eats very, very small amount of food, but it is a really good way to occupy a dog. It is big enough you can get a butter knife in there to smear some peanut butter and freeze it. And like I said, it squeaks, so it's kind of a toy more than it is a way to feed. And then we've got a couple of others. I've got several different versions of these, which are, this one's for a teething puppy. So I picked it up for Branch this year. And you just kind of put some like peanut butter or some canned food and freeze it. And then it's a nice teething toy because it's nice and soft and flexible, and it works really well for them. Excuse me. Oh, there it is. All right. Here's my other stuff. And then I've got this one this one's really, really, really old. I've had this one a long time. This is a great one to put to freeze. Again, I put like some canned food in there, some peanut butters, make up a little slurry of whatever I wanted. Oftentimes, some of my recipes are I steam some vegetables and I mash them up with a little bit of canned food to kind of make them palatable. And then, they're getting healthy stuff instead of getting, eating extra calories, etc. And this one is another one that I would just fill and freeze and let them, as you can see, my dogs have done a number on it. It's really old. I think this goes all the way back like 10, 15 years now. I've had this one a really long time. So it's been through the ringer and it's held up pretty well. Another option is this is a bone. I forget what company makes it. I probably picked this up somewhere like Sierra Trading Post. There's several different companies. You can put some stuff in here. You can fill it in here, and it's got these suction cups, which is great for you can put it on the floor. You can mount it to the wall. Originally, I was using this in the bathtub to kind of help reduce bath anxiety by sticking it on the wall and covering it in peanut butter and letting the dogs go to town. But it actually works for helping kind of, offer some self-soothing behaviors, etc. And because you can suction cup it somewhere, they can't run off with it and eat it because this is pretty flexible and pretty soft. Puppy teeth get a hold of this and they're probably going to do some damage pretty quick if unsupervised. Oh, and I found it. Yes, this is one of my favorites. This is made by, let's see if I can figure it out. Oh, Omega Paw. It is available in several different sizes. I think it even goes up a size from here, and then there's like 2 sizes down. This thing is awesome. It is very difficult for dogs because it requires a significant amount of tenacity for them to get through it, to get to the kibble. This thing will hold about a cup and a half. I need to get up a size. This is one of Kaylee's favorites. This is one of Banshee's favorites. Even Tango really likes it. He's got a lot of food drive. He's not a smart guy, but he's got a lot of food drive, so he's pretty motivated to stick with food. But you just fill it in there with the hole, and you turn them loose with it, and they knock it around. It's soft enough rubber that it's not quite as loud as some of the other like hard plastic ones are. So if you're kind of trying to get ready in the morning and not disturb everyone else who's sleeping in your house or your neighbors or whatever, this is a pretty good option. I love this thing. It takes even Kaylee quite a few minutes, several minutes to get through it, to get all of her kibble out, because it takes some work. They have to really bounce it around quite a bit to knock stuff loose. So those are some ideas about treat toys. There are more available in the universe out there. Chewy.com is a great place to look. Amazon is a great place to look. Go to your local pet stores and just check out what they've got. There are some that come with like specific treats that you can put in there. There's all kinds of ways. Now that we've done all that, let's talk about some of the benefits of why we use these treats. One of the benefits is, of course, the brain drain. I talk about that a lot in my classes. I talk about that a lot in private sessions. I talk about that a lot. This idea that if we were relying on if we're relying on physical exercise to tire our dogs out, what we end up with is a dog that requires going out on a bicycle for an hour, 2 hours, or playing fetch for 2 hours before they're remotely livable. You just end up with a dog that's basically jacked. They're ripped. They're in excellent physical shape, and they're going to run you into the ground every single day. So we want to drain the brain battery. It's the same concept of us going to work and then coming home from an office job and being exhausted. We haven't really done anything physical all day, right? We've been sitting in front of a computer, but we're tired anyways because our mind has been active the whole time. So these treat dispensing toys, the frozen toys, all of the Kongs, all of that provides a brain drain. It provides a mental battery drain. It also provides and encourages, like I said, things like self-soothing behaviors where dogs sit down, they eat, they chew on stuff, they chew on bones and stuff, and they entertain themselves, and they don't directly require our immediate intervention or supervision. It's really nice for getting ready in the morning. If you've got a dog who's one of those dogs who sees you get the house key, who sees you grab the car keys and starts to lose their mind, this is a great way to keep them distracted and kind of disrupt that routine and give you some peace and quiet. Because I know I'm first thing in the morning until I've had my cup of tea and I've had a few minutes to kind of let my brain sort of actually wake up. I'm kind of a zombie and I can't really do anything effective. And if I'm tripping over dogs constantly, it makes my morning kind of chaotic and a little bit hectic and a little bit unpleasant. So keep the peace. I fix these all up the night before, and I just feed them first thing in the morning after they've gone out to go potty. And that way I have some peace and quiet while I get ready. Another thing, I talked about the dogs that hoover their food. It's a great way to slow them down. When they're only able to knock 1 or 2 pieces of kibble out at a time, really slows that mealtime down and reduces the risk of those dogs choking. It reduces that idea of dogs that tend to inhale their food and then puke them back up right away. It provides alternatives to exercise. Sometimes when we have busy work days, we kind of know that first thing in the morning, maybe this is not the day we're going to get to go out. Maybe the weather is absolutely horrible and you're going to have to spend an extra 10 minutes shoveling out this car from the snow or picking ice off of it. Maybe you just happen to know that today's the day you're going to be gone for a much longer time than you normally would be because you've got something going on afterwards, or it's just a busy day. Typically my days are kind of split up into 2 or 3 parts so that I can come home and check on the dogs that I have here, work with the dogs here and then come back in the evening. But there are a couple of days a week usually where that's not really an option. And I'm just going to have to, they're not going to get out. They're not going to get the things that they need. That's a dirty secret. We all talk about exercising our dogs and all the trainers push you to exercise your dogs and train your dogs every day. Well, the reality is we aren't even as perfect. We don't even do it every day with every dog we have. We can't. We have days where we come home exhausted and we're tired and we have to sit down and we have to do nothing. I need to watch Gordon Ramsay scream at people, and I don't have the energy to deal with rowdy dogs and stuff. Whip out a frozen Kong and hand it over and just be like, I'm sorry, tomorrow I will do better. It teaches self-soothing, which is a really important concept, especially for high energy, high drive dogs. So we're talking about our Aussies, our Border Collies, our German Shepherds, young field bred labs that, what they really want to do is go hunt ducks for 15 hours a day. And we kind of have to go to our jobs and do those things, right? It teaches dogs how to settle down, how to lay down and be calm and quiet in an environment that isn't necessarily need them bashing around and breaking things. I have several large dogs that live in my house. They vary in age from 10 down to 7 months. And if I were to allow them to wrestle and run around and bounce around the house, they're going to tear it out from under them. My house just isn't that big, right? For 2 85-pound labs and a couple of 60-pound shepherd things and a mutt. So my house just isn't that big. They're just going to tear it apart. It's an older home. It's small rooms. So I have rules about not running around, not the house is not where we wrestle. The house is not where we get rowdy. We've got a big backyard, a big open backyard for that. So teaching self-soothing is a really important skill. For some dogs, that's easier for them to pick up. Our older dogs tend to be a little bit more calm and quiet about stuff, and our younger dogs have a harder time with that. It is a skill that dogs need to be taught. Left to their own devices, they typically don't come up with that plan on their own. It can reduce anxiety. A lot of dogs who have anxiety issues, it is compounded by having an excessive amount of energy and a very high intelligence. Just like with humans, dogs that are very, very smart tend to have a lot of energy. And tend to also have a lot of anxiety. Humans are the same way. Intelligent people tend to be more prone to anxiety and depression and things like that. So this kind of stuff where it's a repetitive behavior that is immediately rewarding for the dog because they're getting food, which is of course, the number one reward available to dogs. Dogs' brains go really happy for food, by and large, almost all dogs. There's only a handful of exceptions. So it reduces that anxiety, that stress anxiety that comes from being a little bit too smart and a little bit too much energy. My so-called intensity dogs, this is a great tool in the toolbox of working with those dogs to reduce anxiety. All right, we talked about a great way to occupy a dog during meal times, during our meal times as well. So like you're going to sit down and eat dinner with your family, and we all have that, we've all seen the dog that comes over and begs for food and is hoping somebody's going to drop something, that little Timmy's going to drop something off of his plate, etc. Well, you can keep the dog from doing that, particularly in large gatherings like Thanksgiving, Christmas, birthday parties and things like that. Keep them busy by giving them something to do. Go send them off to a quiet room with a treat ball, and they will be completely occupied during the entire meal, and you guys will be able to finish your food without a dog begging or without tripping over a dog while preparing a meal too. These are a great alternative to things like rawhide. We all kind of are aware of rawhide at this point and kind of how it's not the greatest substance on planet Earth because of the chemicals that are used to make it. There are alternatives to that, like bully sticks, whimsies, pork chomps, what they call no hide, digesties, those kind of things are better. They cost 3 times as much as traditional rawhide. These are great because they're completely refillable. They're completely reusable, clearly, because I've had some of mine for years. and they make a great alternative to giving a dog a bone, particularly with some of the ones like this one. The banged up one was designed for teething puppies. So it's designed for the dog to kind of chomp and chew on it and abuse it a little bit to kind of help soothe. And especially with like puppies, this one, like right here, this was for 3 teething puppies. This would be frozen. That cold, just like with teething babies, feels great on them. And so it's a really good alternative to rawhide. If you've got a dog with a sensitive stomach, or you're concerned at all about source materials and chemicals that are used in the production of rawhide. Okay, so I'm going to give a couple of examples of what I would put in there. I already talked about like using canned food. And you can use that pretty sparingly. It doesn't need to be a lot. It just needs to be a little bit, to dilute it with some water, add some non-fat plain yogurt. I really like Greek yogurt because it's got a little bit higher protein content. It's got probiotics. The only caution with yogurt is that some dogs are very, very sensitive to dairy. So if your dog is sensitive to dairy, an alternative to yogurt is goat milk. Goat's milk is great. It's a wonderful thing to mix with a little bit of canned food, like a spoonful of canned food, anything like that. Goat's milk is really, really great. It's got a lot of prebiotics and probiotics. It's a really good thing for dogs with sensitive stomachs. It's also quite appetizing for dogs, so it's a good way to encourage them. And again, anytime I'm going to use something that's kind of squishy and liquidy, I just freeze it. My freezer is half Kongs and frozen bowls of food and things like that. But such is life with my life. I like to do a little bit of mashed vegetables in there. I usually buy what they call the California medley, which is cauliflower, broccoli, and carrots. I steam them on the stove. Takes like 5-10 minutes, and then I mash them up like they were mashed potatoes, and I just gloop them in there and mix them with kibble, etc. I'm making sure it's extra fiber. It's very low calorie. It has a lot of beneficial vitamins, extra calcium, extra this, that, protein, vitamin A, vitamin zinc, and all that other stuff that's so great. And the reason the cauliflower, carrots, and broccoli are good for us. And it also is very, very low calorie. So it makes a great alternative to using something that's high calorie, like canned food or even yogurt, for dogs that might struggle a little bit with their weight or might have tummies that are really sensitive to fat content. Mashed up vegetables are like awesome. I will use sometimes low sodium chicken stock or sodium free chicken stock. The best chicken stock, of course, is stuff you make from your own. Hi, Dwight. Cat. Cats, they make these for cats too, by the way, treat balls and stuff for cats. And my guys go absolutely ballistic for them. They're really fun to watch play with. Dwight is going to join us here for a second. Okay. Anyways, low sodium chicken stock, or anything that's like low fat chicken stock. You don't have to use a lot of it. Again, you can cut it with water. Dogs taste primarily with their nose, not their taste buds. So really you just need that hint of a little bit of extra smell to make them think that the whole thing is delicious. Freezing stuff is your best friend when it comes to this kind of stuff. The treat dispensers, obviously you're not going to want to freeze those, but anything you're going to stuff with like a meal with mashed up kibble or mashed up vegetables or canned food or anything like that, freeze it. Not only does it make it a little less messy when you're feeding it, it also makes it harder for the dog to get out, so it takes them longer, so it works a little bit better. We talked about peanut butter. Like I said, I buy Adams, or Costco actually sells an organic peanut butter that's literally peanuts, a little bit of salt and some oil. It's really cheap at Costco, and you can buy like a giant jug of it for like $10, and it's going to last you forever. Another one is like Skippy Naturals and stuff like that. Yes, they do have sugar, so kind of monitor that with your dogs that have pancreas issues or liver kidney issues or anything like diabetes or weight control. But I like the ones that don't have the added sugar, because sugar is really hard on dogs' digestion, and particularly on their pancreas. And canned pumpkin. Canned pumpkin is a dog people's secret weapon. Dog has loose stools, give a canned pumpkin. Dog has constipation, give a canned pumpkin. You want to get the canned pumpkin that doesn't have the pumpkin pie spices and all that stuff added to it. Just plain old straight up canned pumpkin. It's great to add to kibble, to mix it in with the kibble and kind of create that frozen Kong effect. I've never met a dog who didn't like it. Just straight out of the can, they like it. It tastes good to them apparently, so it's a really good one. to use. Another good example is something like a sweet potato. I occasionally will, just give a dog sweet potatoes to chomp on and use as a bone. It's really great for teething puppies because, it's soft enough for them. It's hard enough for them to work at, but soft enough for them that actually helps them. It makes them feel really good. If I'm really feeling ambitious, I might keep some in my freezer and give them frozen sweet potato. They're easy to come by in the fall. They're not so easy to come by the rest of the year, but it's a good way. Okay. Also, there's a few games I like to use that can kind of slow and change the way we approach meal times. There's a great way to create interaction and engagement with your dog through food. A lot of times I will recommend to clients who have older dogs who have, concern about gaining weight using a lot of reward-based and food-based rewards. I suggest, steal some kibble. I've got a couple of dogs who will pack on the pounds just by looking at extra kibble, which is fine because I'm the same way with cheesecake. But so and they're both super food motivated. So I literally just take handfuls of their kibble to train them. They don't care. I'm not even sure they taste it when it goes down their throat. They're just really happy to get a treat. So one of the games is hide and seek. It's a game I love. It's a great game for this time of year because the weather absolutely sucks, particularly if you've got a young dog who's kind of sensitive to the cold, or you just don't want them hanging out in the mud. My backyard is a disaster because we got all that snow and then it melted in a day and hasn't had a chance to dry out. You get home, it's wet, it's dark, it's cold, it's icy, and you really don't want to be, hanging out outside, walking down a slippery sidewalk, that kind of stuff. So I love a game of hide and seek. And what I will do to do that with meal times is I take a little bit of their food, 3 or 4 pieces of kibble, and I tuck it under a coffee table, someplace that's quote unquote hidden, but really easy to find. And I help them find it. I kind of show them how to find it and couple it with a command like search or find or seek, whatever you want to do. It doesn't matter. It's a great game for dogs because they start using their nose, and using their nose and filtering smells with their nose is incredibly mentally taxing for dogs. I heard it best described once as stew cooking on the stove. When we walk in and we smell beef stew cooking on the stove, right? We're like, oh, that smells like beef stew. Well, your dog smells beef, salt, pepper, celery, carrots, onions, potatoes. Every individual ingredient has a separate and distinct smell that their brain has to process. So when they're hunting around and rooting through, the carpet looking for little bits of kibble, they are using their nose and they're having to sift through all the smells that are already there in that carpet, which there are thousands of them. I don't care how many times you vacuum. I don't care how many times you sweep or mop your floor, your house, smells like 1,000 different things to your dogs. So it's a great way to drain their brain. Now, I start with it really hide and seek being very, very easy because I want the dogs to win. If they don't win, they're not going to want to keep playing, right? So, and I gradually increase the difficulty. I hide like 3 or 4 pieces of kibble under the coffee table, and then maybe it's under a chair, and then maybe it's on top of the chair, and then we kind of move through the things and help them find it. The goal being that eventually, you can just hide it all around the house and send them to search, and they will go and find it all themselves. Just remember where you hid it because it's kind of a weird surprise when you find it later. So it's a really fun game. I love this game. I play this game with my big guy Sullivan, who most of you know. He really likes tennis balls, like it's his favorite thing on planet Earth. So I do it with a tennis ball. It's how we taught him to find people, missing humans, when he was search and rescue certified. Was we convinced him that every person he was going to find had a tennis ball through training. And so when he would go and find people, for training, they would have tennis balls and they would play fetch with him, and that was the best reward we could give him. So whenever he would look for human people in a real life scenario, he was just assuming he was looking for the person who had his tennis ball. So I hide his everywhere, and I make him sit and wait in the kitchen. So it's a great training exercise on his impulse control, his stay, his sit, all that stuff out of sight. And I do things like open drawers, and I'll rub the tennis ball across things and do all that to have him go and find it. So you can do that with kibble too. Once they get really good, you can have them sit and wait out of the room and then have them come in and search. And it's a great mental exercise for your dog. Plus, bonus points, you guys get to use that meal time that normally would be spent completely ignoring each other over food, actually bonding and interacting. Another one that is it's not a new concept, but it's a relatively new thing, kind of taking dog training by a lot of people are using them. They're called snuffle mats. It's basically a shag carpet or a bunch of fleece turned into like a rug. So like one of those bath mats that's got all the individual pieces like this. using those and sprinkling the food through there and letting them go through and snuffle through and find all the pieces. Really great. You can make them really pretty inexpensively using, you know, a sheet of like cross stitch plastic or whatever from your local Joann Fabrics or whatever, and then strips of fleece. It's a really easy thing to make. It's a little bit time consuming. You can also buy them online. A lot of Etsy stores, you know, people who make their own stuff and they sell them relatively cheap. So snuffle mats are great. Also, what is called a another one, it's similar to the snuffle mat. It's called a scatter. It's where you just take a handful of kibble and you just toss it across the carpet or out in the grass when the weather is cooperative and let your dogs hunt for it. It's a great way to distract them. If you're doing something that needs them to kind of stay out of the way, it's a really great mental exercise. I do it, and you've seen me do it in my classes when I've got to leave the demo dog I'm working with to keep them occupied rather than running the risk that they, you know, get overstimulated or anything else. I'll just scatter some treats to let them work on it hunting. Another one is a relatively new one. It's called a licky mat, and it's basically a rubber textured trivet. Is what it looks like. It just looks like those rubber trivets that you would use to like put stuff on from the stove, from fresh out of the oven. And you just smear it with some peanut butter, smear it with some canned food, stick it in the freezer for a couple hours, pull it back out, drop it on the floor, and let them go to town. It's awesome. It's a really nice, easy way, and they're super easy to clean because you just throw them in the dishwasher. That is it. Okay. Does anybody have any questions? Hi guys. That's it. This will probably, once I'm done and the live video, it'll be available on the Facebook page for anybody who wants to rewatch it or anybody who has some questions. You're free to message me, write a comment, just message me, just reach out. I think most of you who are watching are actually people I know, so you know how to find me. You know, if you have any questions about a particular product or if you wanted some recommendations, I am going to put up a couple of recipes probably tonight or tomorrow, probably tomorrow actually, because tonight I've still got some work stuff to do. Yay, owning your own business. A couple of recipes, suggestions for stuffing your Kongs or using on a licky mat and things like that, just to give people some ideas and some locations about where to pick up some of that stuff. So yeah, that's it. Ditch the bowl. Don't feed out of dog food bowls. We don't need to do that anymore. We've got 1,000 other ways to feed our dogs that can provide enrichment and reduce anxiety, reduce stress. Also, just give you some peace and quiet when you need it. It's awesome. It's a great way to go. I mean, you know, if you've got to feed out of a dog food bowl, it's not the end of the world. It's just wanted to make sure that people knew that there were some alternatives that could help with some behavior concerns. With that being said, it is 7:35, which I managed to do this pretty quick. I'm pretty proud of myself for that. I am going to go ahead and peace out, I think. I've got a couple of t-shirt designs that are coming up that I'll be selling copies of. Of course, the branch calendar is still available. And also, don't forget, next class session begins February 22nd. Puppy class and basic obedience. And then keep your eyes out for spring updates on trail etiquette course. And the trail dog and trail doggy manners courses will be starting come this spring when the weather's a little bit more conducive to getting out there and getting on the trails and they're not covered in mud. All right. Thanks so much, guys. I appreciate you watching. I will catch you later. Bye. No, we got it.